welcome. You are with the GMan 5338 and a special guest for the evening. She's joining me in my garage all the way from Chicago, Illinois, Miss Jessica Kent.
What's up, you guys?
Now, listen, if you haven't checked out her content yet, please be sure to do so. There will be all kinds of ways for you to check it out, either in the description below. You can probably find it in the video, in a card, or at the end, okay, of this video. You'll find it. Check out her content. She's an incredible person, and that's why we're talking with her tonight.
I am the world's okayest person, but thank you.
Now, listen, I know not everybody has checked out your content yet, so I would like you, if you wouldn't mind, just to introduce yourself to my people, all right, so they get a feeling for who you are.
What's up, guys? My name is Jessica, and I am a recovered heroin, meth, and pill addict. I also served some time in prison, but I completely changed my life and came on YouTube to try to help addicts and other people that are struggling. I am now a psychology student in my 4th year. I have 2 beautiful girls, and I am freezing my ass off in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, join the club because I am freezing my pasty little took us off as well. It's pretty cold out here where I am. Now, some people might be wondering why I might have you on my station as, you know, or on my channel as retired police, right? Because you are retired from drug dealing, correct?
Yeah, I served time for selling pills and then eventually went to prison for selling meth.
Yeah, so some people might question this, all right? But on top of all the things that Miss Kent has done, she's turned her life around incredibly. This woman is like in the finish line for her BA in psychology, right?
Yep.
That's right. She is momming like a boss. She's got kids. You know, she's working. She's a wife. She is doing it all, yo. She has turned her stuff around. But the thing is that her time in prison parallels my time in the military. And by military, I mean Army, because I didn't serve in the Navy or the Air Force because I was a hard roller, so I went in the Army with all the other hard rollers. That's right. That's where we belong. But there are a lot of parallels in this, all right? And among the first things that I realized in the military is that there was a whole different set of rules. I had rules I had to live by on the street, but once I got into the military, into the Army, there was this whole other world of rules that I needed to know, all right? Otherwise, shit was gonna get real. Okay, because they can charge you, they can throw your ass in jail for this kind of stuff. All right. Now, Miss Kent, can you relate to this or what?
Yeah, that's prison. It's jail, that's prison. So you're gonna have, like when you first go to jail, there's rules and they hand you a handbook, but honestly, the handbook's not worth the paper it's written on because inmate law matters more. So you're gonna have rules with the jail and then you're gonna have rules amongst inmates. And if you violate those rules, you will go to the jail inside the jail, which is SEG. So yeah, it's a whole new life, a whole new culture, a whole new rules to get used to, and it's tough. You know, all your freedom is stripped away. You're taken away from your family and friends, and you're forced to abide by their rules, or else, when I say or else, they will use force to make sure that you abide by those rules. So definitely the same thing with prison.
Yeah, and you know what is so cool about what you just brought up there? There were like 3 other things that you just talked about that I was like, that was my time in the military. Like, you know, as we were talking about rules, you brought up having peer rules, right? Is that people in your own peer group, there is a different code of ethics that you have to adhere to. And if you don't, that is almost more dangerous to disobey or kind of break those rules or that code than it is the actual codified law. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's not going to tell you in the handbook to courtesy flush, but if you don't, everyone's mad. Everyone, especially if it's like an open dorm, because there's no like, everyone smells it, dude. Just courtesy flush. But a cop won't lock you up for that. An inmate might punch you in the face. So those rules are more important.
That's right. You know what I mean? and for us too, it's the other thing is that those people will have your back one day, right? So you have to be cognizant of
Yeah,
that
for sure.
as well. And along with the new rules too, I found that it was like a whole new language. You know what I mean? And you had to pick that stuff up quick. People expected it. You know, they want to know your service number. You know, your name kind of disappears, so they just want to know service number, rank, essentially. And you've got to kind of figure out all of this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for prison, I mean, your name doesn't really matter. Everyone will know your last name, which I think is similar to the military.
Yeah.
So they call you by your last name. So I was always Kent,
Yeah.
or they just used my number. And that kind of made me crazy when officers would call me by my number and not my name. You know, it is what it is. You're a number, you're just another.
And that's why they do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say on that, but yeah, it totally sucks. It totally sucks being called, you know, by your number, because essentially it's just making you feel even less of a person. Prison is meant to break you, and I remember just being really, really upset that they would just call me 711-548 and not Kent. So.
Yeah, I don't want to rhyme off my service number, but it's something I'll never forget. And you know, when you but okay, so when you talk about, you know, being referred to by this number and then breaking you down, and that's exactly what the military is trying to do to you when you first join up, right? They need to break you down and then build you back up how they want you built. You know what I mean? And so there is a lot of that sort of you know, they take away some of the fundamental or the basic freedoms, you know, and humanness to life, you know, whether it be your name, or just when you can go to sleep or not. You know, there's this loss of freedom and loss of control, right?
Yeah. So it is what it is. Honestly, you mentioned lingo a couple of seconds ago. You know, when you're an inmate and you're brand new, say you've never been to jail, never been to prison before, the other inmates don't really care if you don't understand the lingo. You know, I remember doing my time in New York and then going down to Arkansas where I didn't speak redneck. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that like they just have a really thick accent, a southern accent.
I get you.
It was so bad. And a lot of these officers were like wearing overalls, like not in the prison, like at home. Like these guys were like, this prison's in the middle of nowhere where they live. They were redneck AF. And the pod like echoes, it's huge, right? They would open the door and yell things, and you have to be able to understand what they're saying. But it took me a while, not only because I don't understand you when you're speaking right close to me, but it's echoing and you're loud. So they'd be like, medical, and that means medical. You just understand me? No. So it's so frustrating when they're like screaming for chow or medical or rec and you don't know what they're saying. So that was kind of annoying at first. But yeah, other inmates won't care if you're new. They understand that you don't know these words or where to be or what to do or what week or what day commissary is on. You kind of get a pass if you're brand new.
That's all right. That's all right then. At least it's not all that horrible. There's some forgiveness going on there.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to care that you don't know the term courtesy flush. They'll tell you. So.
The good teachers, yo.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of courtesy flushes and tight quarters, cleanliness must be a big thing in the hooskow.
The what?
The hooskow. Prison, the can, the clink.
Prison. Show me your work. How'd you get there? Hooskow.
Hooskow. It's Urban Dictionary. Check it out.
Okay, I'll have to Google that after this. Yeah, you need to keep your stuff in order. It's really important. Say you go to make your bed when you first get there. Usually someone will come over and be like, you're doing it wrong. Like they'll tell you, you know? So you have to keep your bed really, really tightly made. Everything has to be in order. You can't sleep on the bed. You have to sleep, I'm sorry, you can't sleep in the bed. You have to sleep on the bed. And that just means they don't want blankets everywhere. It's really important to keep your bed straight in order. Personally, for me, I wanted like my locker, or trunk, depending on where I was. I wanted it really nicely neat. I wanted everything in order. I was so weird about it. But yeah, they don't want you to have a mess. If you're living with a lifer, which one of my cellmates in McPherson prison had capital murder. She was a lifer that had been there for 20 years, and you can't walk in the cell with your shoes on. You have to take your shoes off at the door and put them on a little place that she had for the shoes. Cleanliness was everything to her.
That's her home, you know. When
Yeah.
I was in Afghanistan, when I was in Afghanistan, I once dealt with a dude who got his head blown off for trying to steal a teapot. It's a long story. I'll talk about it sometime. But something is like the smallest things, okay, are it can be everything to somebody, okay? And so along with that, respect is huge, undoubtedly, right?
Yeah, most important thing is to be respectful. If someone's being disrespectful to you, I mean, absolutely stand your ground with that situation and go into every situation different. Every situation is unique, but having respect, especially for someone that has life that you're living with, huge deal. Very big deal to not be disrespectful to them. So just my story personally, I became friends with her, but it took me a minute because I was hard-headed. I wanted to do things my way. I didn't care about noise. She just wanted her house, because that's what it was. It was her house, quiet, peaceful, and clean.
That's her home.
Yeah, totally. So she wanted her house clean, quiet, and in order, and she wanted me to be respectful of her privacy and her space. And I totally understand that now, but you know, back then, at first, when I was first meeting her, I really didn't get it. I'm like, no, you're not going to tell me. I'm not a punk. I'm going to do things my way. Bad idea. Just be respectful.
Yeah, and it's so true. You know, it goes a long way. Even when I was a cop, I mean, we're kind of getting out in left field here. But when I was a police officer, a lot of times, if you were respectful and you treated people with respect, you got treated the same way. You didn't have to resort to being an idiot. You know what I mean? To get the job done. Respect goes a long way. Okay.
Regardless, yeah, absolutely.
You know, now in the military, in the Army, I should say, we have something called inspections. And now they love to shake your stuff down. All right. They want to make sure that your shirts are folded precisely to a certain thickness. All right. Your boots have to be shined to a certain way. Your bed has to be made a certain way. And if it is not, okay, it will go out an open window or an open door. All right. And now all your hard work is gone to shit. Can you relate to this, Miss Kent?
Yeah, I can. I can relate to it mostly. Like, they're not going to throw your shit out the window. They're just going to trash your cell, trash your locker, dump everything out, make a mess. I mean, getting searched in prison is not fun for someone that has OCD. Like, I like my stuff in order, and it would always stress me out. So they would take things that weren't even really like dangerous or contraband. So for example, I can only have 5 pictures in one of the facilities I was at. So I had to hide pictures. If you take a prison item and you make it something else than its intended purpose, that's contraband, and they'll take it away. So I hated that. I hated getting my stuff gone through. Some officers were really respectful about it, and they'd go through your stuff like nice and neat, just kind of look for like a shank or something wrong, and they'd put your stuff away.
That's all right.
I've had other officers take my bed apart, throw it on the floor, take my stuff, dump it out. I've even had someone rip a book of mine before because he was like shaking it out and the book ripped. So yeah, it's very stressful.
It's ignorant, yo. It's ignorant. Can't believe that you go through that harsh treatment there. You know what I mean?
To be fair, I broke the law. I definitely deserved my prison sentence. So I don't want anyone to misconstrue that like I'm playing a victim or I'm crying about my prison sentence. No, I deserved every day that I sat in there in probably 10 years plus. I definitely got spared, and I was very blessed to only do 2 and change in my last bid. I deserved more time. So I never want you guys to think that I didn't, like I'm a victim. I definitely deserved that prison sentence.
Yeah, you know, I get what you're saying there, but when you consider the state of the prisons today, you know, your punishment is losing your freedom, right? That's basically it. But then when you consider the state of the prisons today, it's like when you go there, it's more punishment. You know what I mean? On top of that loss of freedom, there's all kinds of other stuff that you have to deal with. And I'm not with that. I don't agree with it. And so I get what you're saying about that, but on the same side of the coin, you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to be treated like that. You know what I mean? You're a human being, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. A lot of women are abused also, and that's why, actually, we're going to talk about PTSD later, but
Yeah,
it's
we'll
very
get that in a
high.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very high amongst inmates, and it's just tragic that you don't go there and get rehabilitated or get any help with the issues that you're dealing with. You get more issues on top of it, and then you're labeled forever as a felon, and that just really closes the door in society and blocks you off further from getting your life together and having a better, more successful life. So there are a lot of problems with the prison system, and that's why I'm on YouTube, to share my story and maybe just to shed light on the things that people are going through right now, because I think if you've never been in that situation, it's very hard to understand what these people are going through, you know? In that same breath, I didn't spend my time, you know, crying that I was in prison. I don't live my life like that. I don't live my life with regrets. I just made the best of a really shitty situation.
yeah, you know, and I can totally see that from you, you know, in all my dealings with you. I see that you're a very strong person, and you're able to adapt and overcome and push on, and you seem to really get out of what you put into things. You know what I mean? Mad respect for you. You know what I mean?
Well, thank
Uh,
you very much.
hey, you know, I'll give credit where credit is due, right? Uh, Now, thanks for sticking with the G-Man 5338 and Miss Jessica Kent, all the way from Chicago, Illinois, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we've been comparing the Army to prison, all right? And we've been talking about some kind of serious stuff, all right? And we're going to get back into that serious stuff, but let's take a break from it. Let's talk kind of a little bit lighthearted, although not 100%, but there's definitely some low-hanging fruit and in terms of jokes coming up here, all right? Because we're talking about showers, toilets, and privacy, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. If there is one thing I learned from the Army, that is to have no shame, okay? Because nothing you do is in secret, right? Nothing. You want to
Yeah,
elaborate on that one there, Miss Kent?
sure. First of all, you're so funny. You're so entertaining. You guys need to subscribe to him, like, immediately. But yeah, so you have no privacy. When I say no privacy, I mean no privacy ever. And even if you think that you are alone and no one's gonna know what's going on, we're talking about it still. So you have to shower in a group of people. And that's just really uncomfortable if you're not used to it. I honestly didn't care because I was just okay with it. You know, I have to take a shower. Look, if you want, I'm getting in there, right? So you kind of just adapt to it and you get used to showering with 20 people. There were times where I could shower kind of by myself. Like life was
Yeah.
to want to shower like hell early in the morning, like 5 a.m. at certain facilities I was at, and I would jump in there just so I didn't have to fight for my favorite my favorite shower head, because there's always
Oh, yeah.
and there's always a really bad one, right?
Oh,
So
oh yeah, I know.
yeah. So you just have to get used to it. And a lot of people, we're an open door house. If you don't know what that is, I'll poop with the door open. But there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of people that are terrified to do that. And I've had cellmates in county jail hold it because they were terrified to poop in front of me. Like, girl, it's coming out. Just go. I'm cool.
Oh,
I'll read my book. I'm not looking at you. Just go.
oh,
People are scared to poop in front of another person because it's awkward and uncomfortable.
performance anxiety.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, though. You can't hold it forever.
That's right. You can't be holding on to that stuff. It's no good. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
I mean, I tried not to go at night if I had a 2-man cell, because the rule is if it's yellow, can mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So I tried not to have to go at nighttime. So
yeah, I hear
you
you.
don't want to bother anyone.
Yeah, you're gonna be waking them up, right? Either it's gonna be the smell or the noise. You know, either way, you're doomed, right?
Yeah,
But
good
along
stuff.
those lines, you know what I mean? The food too, it backs you up. Institutional food, okay? There is no polite way around this, ladies and gentlemen, okay? But it backs you up to the point where it can get painful. And I remember a time in Afghanistan, we didn't have access to medical treatment, which is probably something you can relate to as well. Okay, we didn't have regular medical treatment. Okay, and old G-Man had to hook himself up with a homemade enema kit. Maybe one night after midnight, I'll do a live chat about it. All right, we'll do a bit of Q&A if you want. You probably don't
I'm
want
gonna skip that one.
TMI, right? But TMI, right? But that is life. This is institutional life. There is no privacy. There is nothing pretty about it. Okay, your whole world is going to change. All right, and you're exactly right. There are no secrets. Everybody knows everything about you. You cannot hide. In the military, women and men sleep in the same accommodations. So I'm telling you, there is no hiding shit. Okay. It's all out in the open. All right. So you need to be prepared for this kind of lifestyle. All right. As we've seen here, there are obviously a lot of parallels, okay, between the Army and life in prison or in jail. And some of the more important ones I want to talk about are PTSD. And some of the long-lasting habits and effects from institutional life. And one of the things they talk about is statistically is that in males anyways, in the prison population, it's the same as combat vets pretty much. It's like 27%. And for us combat vets, it's like 1 in 4, so 25%. All right. But for you young ladies, it is much higher, sadly, and it's closer to 40%. It's around 38%. You know, any idea? Can you kind of, do you think you could shed light on that for us if you'd be willing to?
Well, I can't speak for every person in every prison. I can just tell you guys what I thought, like what I experienced and what I saw. And for me, I probably had some PTSD leaving prison. And that's because my daughter was born while I was in prison. I was 3 weeks pregnant when I got arrested. So, and thank God, because it saved her life. I was a really bad drug addict, so I'm so grateful for that. But my whole pregnancy was traumatic. Everything I went through during that pregnancy that a normal person would go through in a pregnancy, I didn't have help for. No one told me it was normal. I had people trying to scare me, saying that that's not normal. Oh my God, no, something's wrong. I also had really high blood pressure during the course of my pregnancy because I'm stressed out, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really tough. After she was born, she was taken out of my arms when she was 2 days old, physically removed from me, and I had to go back to prison.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I saw other women doing the same thing, and they came back, not to speak ill of them, but they came back and acted like it was no big deal.
Yeah.
They showed pictures of their babies, and I thought, those girls can do it, I can do it. No, I couldn't. So I had postpartum depression to such a degree that they kept me in the infirmary for a couple of weeks and watched me because I wasn't speaking, and it was really, really hard for me to get through that. As far as why other women suffer PTSD, it's because a lot of them endure abuse in prison. There are male COs preying on weak inmates. I have seen a prison chaplain at the prison I was at sexually assaulting and raping women. 5 women that I knew in my program barracks. I lived with these women every day for months, and it was right under my nose, and I didn't catch it. And I hate that. But yeah, that was absolutely going on.
I'm sorry it's happening.
Yeah, me too. And the only thing that we can do is speak out against it. Thankfully, that prison chaplain is in prison. He is serving 5 years, but he also got 2-year denials, which is in Arkansas. You go to the parole board and they can give you a denial for up to a year. They can do that a couple times, and he has received 2-year denials. So I'm very thankful for that. There's also lawsuits pending. So, you know, when there is physical abuse like that, of that magnitude, we need to speak out against it. So I will absolutely always do that. And I encourage you, if you have gone through that.
I don't want to cut you off, but you can for sure 100% take over my channel anytime you want to talk about that stuff, because that shit needs to get out in the air, just like mental health issues, and all that kind of stuff that people want to just kind of sweep away and forget about and turn a blind eye to.
Yeah, I agree. It's uncomfortable and awkward to talk about, but we need to talk about it. We need to shed light on it, and there needs to be awareness in what women are going through in prison right now.
That's right. Open, positive discourse, Miss Kent, is what we need to start.
With no judgment or shame to victims either. I think we've come a long way in society, but honestly, I think social media hinders women from wanting to come forward because it's embarrassing, it's humiliating all on its own without other commentators coming in and just being really shitty to them on the internet. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy, and even males can be victims of sexual assaults too, and
right.
oftentimes it's very difficult for them to come forward. One of the top 4 causes of PTSD in men is sexual assault, sexual trauma. And so it's oftentimes very difficult for them to come forward, but you know, you're both going through the same kind of stuff. So it's understandable that anybody who's been through a sexual assault is scared to come forward. Now, I want to thank Miss Kent for popping by the show tonight, coming all the way from chilly Chicago to the frozen tundra of where I'm living in Ontario.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me on. I love chopping up with you. Most of you don't know, but GMan and I are talking constantly on Instagram. He has me rolling. He's hilarious. So if you haven't already done it, you need to subscribe to him.
Thank you so much. And likewise, if folks have not done the same for you, you got to check out Miss Kent. She's an incredible, inspiring person, yo. And she too keeps me laughing. I spend 90% of the time talking with this woman, laughing my ass off. She is good, people, yo. Check her out, please.
Thank you
once again, and you are more than welcome to come back anytime, Miss Kent.
Same for you. We need to have you back on my channel. I know I've already dragged you over there once, but you need to come back on.
Yeah, for sure. I'll come back anytime. All right.
All right. Bye,
Much
guys.
love and respect. Okay. Peace.